Namaskaram Mandi.
Namaskaram.
Reddy Garu, Anita Garu.
Namaskaram Sadhguru sir. We are so happy to have you with us join online, though your physical presence would have made us much happier, but we are happy to see you here with us.
Anita Garu, I'm just wondering, all of you are highly qualified scientists with great achievements behind you. I am an uneducated man. I'm just wondering, why have you invited me at all?
You are very, very humble in saying that you are a very uneducated person, but actually we know that it is not just the education that makes the person, but it's the inner knowledge that shapes you. And I think you are an inspiration to many, and we are happy to have you here, sir. As scientists, we are doing our duties, but you have a better reach than us. So we welcome you, sir, to this 5th International Agronomy Congress that basically has been hosted by Borewells. You can see I didn't prompt the applause. Thank you. Sir, this Congress, as you know, as you are aware, is being hosted by the Indian Society of Agronomy as well as Professor Jaishankar, Telangana State Agriculture University. We have about 500, in spite of the COVID, there are 500 delegates sitting in front of me along with the students of our university. And there are more than about 700 joined online. They are from almost 20 countries. So I'm happy you're here because it just definitely has added value to our Congress. Over the last 4 days, there have been a lot of deliberations, academic, scientific deliberations on whatever has been talked to about in the videos we just saw, I mean, whatever in these 4 days that have been deliberated are all put in a nutshell in the videos that we just saw. That said, you are a global influencer, not only as a spiritual thought leader, but also as someone who has environment as your passion to preserve the nature for future generations. That said, you have a global reach. And I think we need to have this dialogue, this conversation with you. And with your permission, Guruji, can we start with the first question? Because you already know
Yes,
us. You have named us, so we will not give any more introductions. But anyway, for the audience, I am Dr. Anita. I am Dean of PG Studies of PJTSAU.
I'm slightly off your subject matter, Mai. I know you're an entomologist, but I am like a worm on this planet. What I know is like a worm knows about the soil because I've lived on this planet. I'm little off your subject, but please pay attention.
I study those worms, sir, but I haven't studied you. So.
Namaskaram. I am Samir Reddy. By profession, I am soil scientist. At present, I am working as head division of resource management at the Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture, located at Hyderabad. The mandate of our institute is to undertake basic and applied research. For efficient resource management, our resources are rainwater, soil, nutrients and energy. For their efficient management for climate resilient and sustainable agriculture in rain-fed areas and dryland areas. That is our mandate. Most probably, actually, this is the first meeting, larger meeting held after the Conference of Parties, 26 held at Glasgow. And we have deliberated, actually, the climate change effect, no doubt it is affecting agriculture. Only few benefits are there from the climate change, but if we see, there is a larger impact, adverse impacts are more. So that we have been deliberating for the last 4 days. In this, after Glasgow, actually, we need some of the clarification from your larger experience. And you have got from the different countries across the globe. In recently held Conference of Parties, 26 at Glasgow, after so many deliberations of these about 197 participating countries, they deliberated the carbon emissions from the different sectors, including agriculture. One of the small sector, we are contributing only the 16-17% to the total contributions of carbon emissions. But fossil fuels and industry are like that. And their impact on environment as well as the agriculture and climate change. So what are your impressions on the fallout or the outputs of this COP26 and their impact on globe and the world as a particularly developing countries and also India? So So that actually we want to hear from your impressions, share from your experience.
Namaskaram to all of you, all the scientists who have gathered there and also those of you who are online. Please pardon me if I say something which is maybe a little unscientific in your perception. As I said, I am not a scientist by any standards, but I've lived on this planet. People say, hasn't everybody lived on this planet? No, I disagree with that because most people live in their heads. I live on this planet. Because I don't have anything much in my head, I just live on this planet like a worm. And I know this planet by my life's experience. So from this context about COP26, it's not for me to pass a judgment on COP26, it's such an international effort to find solutions. But I feel it's overly focused towards fossil fuel burning. I'm not saying it's not important, it's a very important part. And Reddy Garu pointed out that agriculture is contributing only 16% in terms of carbon emission. But carbon emission is not the only thing. The methane production has 80 times more capability to warm up the planet than carbon dioxide, and it's very important to focus on that. Generally, the internationally scientists agree that 32 to 36% of the global warming could be happening because of agricultural activity, and especially soils being left open during summers, a plowed soil being left open without any shade or without any cover or without any living crop on top of it. More than this carbon emissions and other things, which are a big issue, I am not saying it is not. The most important thing is the loss of biodiversity, which I feel has not found sufficient focus in the COP. But I've been invited to COP 15 by the UNCCD next year in Ivory Coast. I will be speaking there, where the focus is more on soil. Maybe that is the way the international bodies work, but that's fine with me. But I was talking to an environment minister of a particular nation, an important nation in the world, and this person told me, Sadhguru, I was there for 6 days in the COP26. I did not hear the word soil. I cannot understand how you can address climate change, how you can address sustainability on the planet without addressing soil. It is the thing. Without addressing soil, you cannot. Yes, carbon emissions are important, yes, fossil fuel burning has to be reduced, but one thing is, the methane gases are 80 times more warming than CO2, and another thing is, the CO2 that's already been emitted, you are not going to take it back in the next 1,000 years because it's going to stay. But methane can be taken back in the next 10 to 15 years' time or kind of neutralized. So this is an immediate effect. So if you are interested in controlling the global warming and the climate change as a larger process, a consequence of this warming process, then the most important thing is to curtail the methane because it will have immediate effect. Carbon emissions has to be curtailed, no question about that, but that is a much longer, when I say longer, in human context, 1,000, 2,000 years is too long a amount of time to plan. It's not something that you can really plan for because we don't know what else will happen in those 1,000 years' time. But 10, 20 years are very much within the scope of our activity, controlling methane emissions from agriculture and especially leaving large parts of world's agricultural soil plowed and open. The level of damage it's causing is one thing. But for me, the most important concern is that this is living soil. The soil is a living entity. I don't have to tell you this, all of you are invested in this, but I am saying we are not, the larger world is not understanding that soil is a living entity. We are trying to treat it like material. It is not material, it is a living soil. It is out of this a worm, an insect, a bird, an animal, a tree, and you and me have come out of. Most people don't get this till you bury them, that is the whole problem. We must understand it's a living soil. In this country, we have referred to, in India, we have always referred to soil as mother soil. You know, in Tamil Nadu we say Thaimannu, I am sure in every language there are similar expressions. But for example, in United States where I've been talking to lots of people, they refer to soil as dirt. If that is dirt, then you and me end up being dirt bags, unfortunately. So my work is to see that we as a generation of people don't end up as dirt bags, that we really endorse, experience and nurture the soil as living soil. And if we do not see the aliveness of the soil, we will miss the whole point. Yes, climate change is a concern, it's a great concern, I'm not trying to in any way bring down the significance of that. Yes, carbon emissions are a great concern, but soil is something very, very important because other things can be fixed in reasonable amounts of time. But if soil goes bad, then life is gone in many ways. So it's extremely important, as all of you know, scientists, that many responsible agencies in the world have clearly said we approximately have about 80 crops worth of topsoil on the planet, which is just 40 to 60 years' time. So, what is our plan for the future? I feel soil is not our property. Soil is definitely not our property, it's our legacy. The previous generations have given it to us. To give it in that condition at least to the next generation is a fundamental responsibility that we have as a generation of people. COP26 has achieved a few things about nations coming to certain agreements, but it is not urgent enough in my understanding of things because right now the way we've structured our economic situation, there is no way you're going to stop the fossil fuel burning unless we are willing to change our lifestyles, the way we live and the way we do our economies. When our economies are all about more and more, I don't see how energy requirement will come down. We are talking about alternative ways of generating energy, and yes, there is a fantastic initiative called the Solar Alliance, which could solve problems, but right now not even 20% of the energy is being met by alternative sources. We can enhance that, we can go into other technological processes, which is all long drawn out processes. Technology is not going to happen overnight either. So, 80% of energy requirement is still done by coal and other fossil fuel burning. So, is there an immediate solution? No. Is there a gradual movement? Yes, definitely. COP26 is a success in those terms that there is definitely a movement in the direction. Is it rapid enough to save us from disasters? Well, I don't think so, because when every responsible scientist in the world is making a prediction that by 2045 we will be producing 40% less food than what we are producing right now and our populations will be over 9 billion, I think that is a disaster waiting, and 2045 is not too far away. It is in your lifetimes you will see this, it is not future. So, this problem, the soil as an issue, climate change as an issue, is not about future generations, it has come into our lives.
Thank you very much. In continuation to that, you rightly said, soil is the home that nurtures life, and of course Mother Earth. But what is happening actually, soil health, not India, it is continuously deteriorating, that is the one point. And the other point is that the per capita land availability is coming down year after year because of our increasing population, and our area is fixed. So in this context, actually so many organizations, so many government schemes, so many state governments, many are working in isolation. So it is actually many times it is not happening up to the desired level to protect the soil health. In this context, we understand ISHA Foundation, they did a lot of good work, and you have connected so many dots that are there in soil, plant, animal and human health continuum. With that we were based on your experience. Until unless if we create awareness, that movement comes from the communities. about the soil health and awareness about the soil health and its protection, it may not be possible to the government or the research organizations alone to protect the soil, that vast area. So in that actually what are your impressions or what are your ideas how to involve this community action in protecting the soil for future generations? This is the one. And the other important thing is that actually we have held so many meetings wherever the soil science and agronomics meetings are held, conferences. One point after so many deliberations, actually one we will come to conclusion is that there is a reserve forest act is there in India. We know if we want to anybody change or convert the forest means so many guidelines they will give. But in the same lines of similar to the reserve forest land, in India can we imagine one day we have Reserve Agricultural Land Act. This is what we want from your impressions.
So, yes, that's an extremely relevant question because I feel the scientists have already done their work. Senior scientists across the world, including the Indian scientists, all of you, the data is all there. Everybody knows what are the facts about this today. We may not know the scientific jargon attached to it, the more detailed versions that you study, but as I said, being like a worm on this planet, I know this is not good for my life, what's happening right now. This is not good for any life right now, what is happening right now with our soil. Well, tell me if my data is wrong because I'm going by what is being provided to me, I'm not somebody who studied by myself. So they're telling me 62% of India's soil has organic content below 0.5%, when the minimum necessary is somewhere between 3 to 6%. Yesterday I was in conversation with that wonderful lady, Jane Goodall, and I said, see, I'm striving to push the governments, 192 countries in the world, towards making a policy where at least 3% organic content must be there if you want to own agricultural land. She said, I don't agree with you, 3% is not the thing, it should be much higher. I said, well, in a tropical forest there is over 70%. If that could happen, it's too fantastic, but I don't see that happening. We could ask for 20%, that's not going to happen. We can ask for 12%, that's not going to happen. 6%, even that is too steep. 3% I am asking as minimum to keep the soil alive. I am not saying it's the ideal. 3% is not the ideal, but at least the bioactivity will stay alive because every study is saying by the beginning of the next century, that is in another 80 years' time, over 50% of the microbial activity in the soil will be gone. Species dead, gone. On an annual basis, 27,000 species of microbes are dying. We need to understand plant growth and animal growth and our own existence here as physical beings on this planet is completely microbe-fired. It is the microorganisms which are keeping us alive, it is the microorganisms which are making sure the plants get the necessary nourishment, it is the microorganisms which is keeping the planet alive at various levels. So, if that is going at 27,000 species per year, in another 80 years' time, nearly 50% loss would have happened, that is what some of the responsible scientists are saying. So if that is the direction in which we are going, we need definitely a law. So if you look at… you're in Hyderabad, I am trying to look for an example. Let us say if you go to the old city of Hyderabad, I am very familiar with Hyderabad because at one time I spent time there. Well, here you will see wall-to-wall houses are built without any space between them because there was no policy how to build your home. Anybody could build it whichever way they want. As most of our villages are built, haphazardly, whichever way they want, your house wall and the neighbor's house wall are common walls, just like that. But if you go to more recent localities, if you have 10,000 square feet of land, you can't build 10,000 square feet fully. Maybe 7,000 square feet you can build, some space for yourself and your neighbor. This is the law. It may be your land, but you can't build. This is the law. So So in agricultural land, somehow, for whatever reasons, there are many cultural reasons, but for whatever reasons, if you have 10 acres of land, you can plow every inch of it, 12 months of the year. You can make sure in the next 20 years' time, this soil becomes sand. There is no law to stop it. It is time we bring a law. Initially, right now if you talk about mandatory laws, it'll go crazy. But initially as recommendations that if you own agricultural land, what is the minimum organic content? I am using 3% more as an inspiration, not as a solution. Something very small, at least keep the bioactivity alive in the soil, that much responsibility. So, minimum 3% organic content should be there. So how do I do it? Where is the organic content? I don't find manure. You do one thing, all of your soil scientists, today I will give you 24 hours time, in the next 24 hours, buy 10 truckloads of manure from somewhere, let me see, organic manure. You just can't get it. Do you understand? You'll have to search for 6 months to get 10 truckloads of even cow dung or any other that kind of manure. So, this is because organic content can only come from two sources, animal waste and tree litter or green litter that comes from the plant life. So, animals have already left the farm long time ago. People have gotten used to working with machines. There is no way you can get them back to working with animals. That is a very hard thing to do, it will not happen. So, the only other thing is the tree-based agriculture to whatever extent. So, I'm saying this is not a literal law, but I am saying if you have 10 acres of land, maybe you have to dedicate 1 acre of land to generate organic material, either through plants or animals or whichever way, and enrich the remaining 9 acres of land. The law is needed. If you think it's going to happen voluntarily, no, there is no such time. That transformation may take hundreds of years, there is no such time. Initially as a recommendation, later on as incentives, later on as a mandatory enforceable law, that if you have agricultural land, if we test your soil, you must have minimum 3% organic content. Otherwise you could be penalized, otherwise you have to rest your land. See, what is happening in Europe and North America is, because of the type of winters they have, their land gets rested for almost 6 to 7 months in a year, largely under snow, which is water dripping all the time, and land has time to come back. And above all, there is a fall time. Right now we are here in Tennessee, I see at least 4 to 6 inches of leaf, and all this is going to be buried in snow in another 2 weeks, and it will stay there for 3 to 4 months, and all that becomes soil. Where is such a thing in India? Where is such a thing in any tropical land? When I lived on the farms, every summer we used to plant some legumes or pulses, and we know that no yield will come, but when the monsoons comes, we would plow back the whole crop. Minimum 2-3 inches of humus used to come out of this. There is no such practice left anymore. Farmers are not committed to keeping their soil alive. We are living here like we are the last generation. So I don't think this can be fixed by just awareness programs. This has to be a mandatory law. Right now, the Conscious Planet movement is aiming towards this, that initially a recommendation law, as we have done for Rally for Rivers, because we moved 162 million people across the country, immediately Niti Aayog agreed to the 760-page document that we produced, and they made it a recommendation law for all the 28 states. 5 to 6 states are proactively doing it. Rest of them are waiting for a disaster to happen. Unfortunately, this has been the human way, that something really bad has to happen for us to act. Are we waiting for that? Have we forgotten, before 1950s, we had terrible famines in this country? Just because we have eaten well for 50, 60 years, we have completely forgotten. Last time the famines happened largely due to lack of water and sometimes due to lack of seed. But this time it will happen because of lack of soil. You're not going to transport soil from somewhere and enrich your land. So you must grow, either in the form of animals or trees or whatever other kind of vegetation, one way or the other. the organic content that is necessary for your agricultural land, you must produce it on your land. This has to become mandatory. You getting it from elsewhere is not going to work because there is no such organic content anywhere else.
Thank you, Sadhguruji. Now we have concentrated a lot on the soil. I think another resource that is very, very important is water. And you have already mobilized a lot of policy changing activities for water. As you said earlier, water as a resource for life, when used properly, is gentle. But when it shows its violent form, it causes all sorts of disaster. As we are seeing in recent times, we are seeing extreme events of rainfall in areas that otherwise would not have even had that much rainfall coming in a complete year. It's happening in a matter of a month or so. All sorts of unequal distribution of rain happening. So in this context, I think Kaveri calling and rally for rivers was a very, very important step, or where you have mobilized community action and also have actually helped in forming policy. Can you please share your experiences on this journey? Because this is very, very important, because when we are talking about the conscious planet movement for soil, we should know your experiences of the past.
So, I would like to say, because this journey, in terms of action, in terms of experience, it started very early in my life, because I've always been outdoors and I have a certain sense of land. I've spent more, probably between 12 and 25 years of age, I've spent more nights outdoors than indoors. That is not… that's a strange thing for a lot of people. I largely slept outdoors. I slept on trees, I slept under the trees, I slept here and there in the riverbeds, but because somehow my spirit wouldn't sleep in a bedroom. So, my engagement with this has been very long-term, but action-orientedness came from 1998. On that year, some UN agencies came to Tamil Nadu and made a prediction that by 2025, 60% of Tamil Nadu will be facing desertification. Well, I don't like predictions, whether it's about individual life or a nation or the world, because predictions are based on cold facts that we have. They never take into account what is beating in the human heart and what human beings could do. So when I looked at this, I did not believe it, first of all. So I decided to drive around Tamil Nadu and see for myself. Then I saw what they were saying was incorrect, because in my experience I felt it'll happen well before 2025, because 3 perennial rivers had dried up in Tamil Nadu. I went there and the rivers are dry, people had started building homes into the riverbed, because that river is never going to come back again. Rivers which have flowed forever, gone, totally gone. And I noticed in Coimbatore city, when I first went there 30 years ago, we were hitting water in a borewell just around 150 to 250 feet, but by that time, 1998, in many places they were going over 1100 feet. And all over Tamil Nadu, the crowns of palm trees were falling off. Palm trees, not coconut trees, palm trees, which is… what do you say in Telugu? You say the tatu, the tartanungu. What do you call that? I'm sorry.
Tadi chetlu or
Yeah. All the crowns falling off in thousands of trees across Tamil Nadu, crowns falling off because they are not able to access water, because people are going… every acre of land literally has… because these Namakkal people invested so much in the borewells, you won't believe it, in every acre there is one borewell. Just now, like in the last few months, I met this farmer, young farmer, 27 years of age, in 3.5 acres. I asked him, what is your source of water? He says he has sunk 9 borewells. Can you believe this? In 3.5 acres, 9 borewells. And this has cost over 1 crore of rupees, 1.2, 1.3 crore rupees. So the only way he's going to pay back this loan is by selling the land. There is no other way he's going to earn that much to pay back the loan that he has taken to dig 9 bore wells and get electricity for 9 bore wells, put pumps for 9 bore wells. Either he's going to sell the land or he's going to hang from a tree. That is all that's going to happen. So this is a disaster unfolding. When I saw this, I thought we need to do something. So at that time, the average green cover across Tamil Nadu was 16.5%. The national aspiration was 33%. So I said, we need to get this to 33%, what does it take? I made a simple barefoot calculation. If for so many thousand or million square kilometers, how many trees does it take to make it 33%? I arrived at a number, 114 million trees are needed. So I called a group of our volunteers and said, see, we need to plant 114 million trees. They thought I've gone crazy because Sadhguru, 114 million trees, who can plant this? I asked, what is your population? They said 62 million. See, if all of us plant one tree, take care of it for 2 years and plant one more tree, you got the number. Why is it that it can't be done? Simply because all of us are consuming, but all of us are not willing to do the compensatory work. That's the whole thing. If everybody jumps in, it's nothing, it can be done effortlessly. So based on this, we started a movement called Project Green Hands, which planted millions of trees, still continuing to do that, and we converted a few over 120,000 farmers into tree-based agriculture, where we saw a significant improvement in the soil quality, in the nutritional values of the food, and above all, I unfolded this as an economic process, not as an ecological initiative. For the farmer, it is an economic process because in 7 to 8 years' time, his income is going up anywhere between 300 to 800%. Because it's an economic process for him, and there is a significant ecological impact. And this is what I presented in the United Nations when I told them, my work is to officiate the marriage of economy and ecology, because if these two things don't come together, ecology will be beaten, economy is all people are going to talk about. Farmer's condition is so bad right now, asking him to save the planet is a criminal ask. I wouldn't do such a thing. So I am always presenting this as an economic process for the farmer, and based on this, we launched the next thing because I saw there were many policy anomalies to plant trees in the land. The simple thing is, in many states, it was so that if you plant a tree in your own land and for your use, and someday if you want to cut it, you could be arrested for that. Activists will come and do protests in front of your home. So when I saw this, unfortunately, this took 7.5 years of active work with various governments to get this policy that what you plant on your land is your property and you can cut it when you want. Because if you cannot use it, nobody is going to plant it. If you want to understand what I'm saying, you're in Hyderabad, from Hyderabad you take a flight to Delhi, and every 5 minutes you look out of the window in summertime, you will see whole India, except for Western Ghats and a few patches here and there and of course the northeast, rest of India looks like brown desert. Right across from southern India to northern India, everything looks like brown desert because we think when it is not yielding, land is not our responsibility, we just leave it as it is. And this is causing an immense damage. So the policy change in Rally for Rivers demanded many things, I will not go into that. But how this was affected is, I drove from Kanyakumari to Himalayan region in 29 days, covering 16 states. At that time, in these 16 states, there were 6 different political parties. And you know how political parties are, if you say it is day, they will say it is night. That is what opposition means in this country. In India, opposition means if the sun is shining bright and the ruling party says, okay, it's good morning, they'll say, no, good night. Why? Because they have to oppose. This is the level of opposition that we have. But all the 6 political parties in the 16 states came on stage with me, the chief ministers came on stage with me, participated. Where chief ministers were not possible, some other responsible person came. We got absolute participation from all the political parties because there were 162 million people supporting the movement. We must understand, in a democracy there is only one currency, that is the numbers, the people. Unfortunately, people have not spoken about long-term concerns. Why these things are not attended to is, see, always in any country resources are scarce and the time available for a political leader to perform is just 5 years. In that 1 year goes in fighting the election, probably 3.5 to 4 years what he has. He would like to invest that time in some things that will produce results within his term. Especially results should come at the election time. That is how things are planned. But if you invest in soil, if you invest in long-term well-being of the water situation in the world, in your state or in your country, that will yield result 8, 10, 15 years later or maybe even 25 years later. Nobody wants to invest in that. One more aspect is, most people come to political power after they're 60 years of age. They don't want to invest in something which will take 20 years to bear result. That is not in their general interest because limited resources are there. Above all, public has not stood up and said, we want to invest in long term. So we got these policies changed. It took about 7.5 years of running from pillar to post, both in center and various other states. Today we have a law that you can not only grow a tree in your land, you can cut it and use it and you can encash it. Not only at the end of the term, after 2 or 3 years, if you monitor the growth, on the digital platform you can sell the tree and year on year they will pay installments for you till it's 15 or 20 years of age, and when they cut it, they'll pay the full amount. So the farmer is earning with the tree. Why this is important is, putting back forests in this country is out of question. Because the population pressure is such, there is simply no way we can put back forest back in the land. The only way is there must be vegetation on the agricultural lands. And this can only be done if it is beneficial to the farmer. If it's not beneficial to the farmer, asking him, as you already mentioned, that the land holdings are so small, in that asking him to save the planet is just cruel. It's just not even a thing to say. So you have to make it economically beneficial. One important thing I'm pushing for right now is, in our vocabulary, in our country, in our vocabulary, in our lexicon of policy making, we must eliminate the term forest produce. There is no such thing. If you want timber, you must grow it. If you want honey, you must grow it. Whatever else you need, you must grow it on your agricultural lands. Right now, we are importing over 70,000 crores worth of timber from various parts of the world. How that 70,000 crores worth of timber comes? Is it legally cut, illegally cut? Where is it cut? Nobody asks, because there is an international scam about stamping everything as legal on the high seas. It's being done, everybody knows this. So we don't care where it is cut as long as our furniture, our doorways, other things are made for us, but most of the wood that you're using today is coming from elsewhere. I'm saying this can be grown. These 70,000 crores could go to our farmers in the next 20 years if we start plantations right now. This does not mean we give up farming. We can grow almost every crop. In the last 22 years, every crop, including paddy, can be grown along with trees. There is a way to do it, there is a science of tree-based agriculture. I'm using the tree-based agriculture as a term, not agroforestry, because we started with that and then we discovered the moment you say agroforestry, it will fall under the forest department, where the forest department is full of restrictions and restrictions and restrictions, not about exploring possibilities. So, we got this under the agriculture ministry now, calling it tree-based agriculture. So, policy change happened because I gave this policy document to the Prime Minister at about 6:20 in the evening. Next day before 11 o'clock, just before 11 o'clock, the PMO calls us and says, a special cell has been formed and they want a soft copy. Within 3.5 months, the Niti Aayog made this a recommendation policy for all the 28 states. So that is the story of Rally for Rivers. We knew that we had to manifest something which is a large-scale sample. This is why we took up Kaveri calling. Kaveri because I grew up around Kaveri. People have many statistics, many studies say many things, but I'm telling you from my experience, I have lived around this river. What it was 50 years ago, Today it is only 40% of what it was 50 years ago, Kaveri River, I'm telling you. And I've lived on the banks of Krishnarajasagar Dam, right behind that, the huge water body that is there. Never in many years of me being there, never have I seen Kaveri being muddy. Always it is crystal clear water. But last time when we, part of the Kaveri calling, we went and camped there, I found it was completely red. This means the Western Ghats is coming down to Mysore city. The hills are just flowing into the plains through the river. For the first time, this river is red. Never ever was it red, I'm telling you. I have seen this through my childhood, through my youth. Never was it ever red, but today it is red. This is not a small story, I'm telling you, this is a dangerous story. That mountains are melting away and coming into the plains is not a joke, and it's been stopped by the dam. The dam itself may become redundant in the next 20 years' time if it is not taken care of because of the amount of soil that is coming down. So, Kaveri calling is an active process, and I must tell you this, I just a week, 10 days ago, I got a letter from the Chief Minister of Karnataka giving a letter of appreciation and inviting us, because there are 9 districts in Karnataka which cover Kaveri basin. We were working only in these 9 districts, and in the month of August, September, we had like our volunteers went down and did 1800 events in about 6 weeks' time. 1800 events in 1800 panchayats, and it's a very vibrant, active movement. Looking at this now, Karnataka government just less than 2 weeks ago sent an invite for us to take this up in 31 districts, that is all the districts in Karnataka. We have said yes, if the necessary support comes from the government, because till now, me and all our volunteers, whom I'm slave driving all the time to work 7 days of the week, 365 days, we are working so hard to raise the funds and make this happen all by ourselves. If the government comes in with the necessary funding or finance, very easily this can be done in all the 31 districts. And as a part of this, the central government saw the success of Kaveri calling on ground, and now they have done 13 DPRs or the detailed project reports for 13 river basins. If we actually implement this in these 13 river basins, let's say in the next 10 to 15 years, if we make this happen in 13 river basins, in many ways India's food security is taken care of. That's what it means, but we need to execute that. So UNCCD, looking at the success of Kaveri calling, is right now projecting Kaveri calling as an ideal project in tropical world. So it's based on this, I will be speaking at the COP 15 in Ivory Coast in the month of May.
And actually maybe inspired by all these, even many governments are taking up this program of greening their states. Government of Telangana also has its pet project of Telangana Kuharitaharam, where we have…
Yes, there's a very aggressive process. I've met your Minister Harish Rao.
Yes.
So, when I met him, the plan that he told me what they have, I don't know to what extent it's implemented right now, but the plan that they had is very aggressive and fantastic, actually.
Yeah, right now they are also doing drone-based seeding also of the barren lands, as you call them. So even that is happening at this point. And we, in the university also, we have taken up Greening of Campus program, where our students have planted almost more than 1 lakh of saplings. And that's why this is a very green campus, and we would like to have you here one day. Thank you. You just mentioned in your…
If I can interject a little bit, all these things are important. Barren lands, university campuses, industry campuses, everything. But the most important thing is agricultural lands, because 84% of India's land is under plough. That is what needs to be attended to.
We will take that message through, sir, because our students are with the farmers for almost 3 to 4 months in a year. So they are an ideal vehicle to convince this, and the farmers know that too. Sir, during your discourse right now, you said that ecology and economy have to walk hand in hand. how realistic is it, considering that the progress and development increases economy, but sometimes puts a heavy hand on ecology? That happens. And sometimes we as scientists are pained to see that emotion overrides science-based evidence. Where technologies are concerned, which are very, very important for the farming community and ensuring food and nutritional security. But sometimes emotion actually overrides it. You know, as you said, many kinds of social activism comes for good or for bad. So how do you think we have to handle this?
That's a very important point that you're pointing out, because right now why industry always resists any ecological movement is because they always think an ecologist or an environmentalist means they're going to attack their business, okay? Though we are also driving the same car, we want to hit the automobile industry, we want to hit the oil industry, this attitude must go. Industry needs transformation, not banning, all right? No industry needs to be banned, they need to transform. For transformation, policy help is needed, incentives are needed, and time is needed. You can't just change a major industry. For example, right now, say oil industry in the world. In the last few years, campaign has been going on and investments have been stopped in oil industry. Today there is a production shortage, and because of that the prices have gone up. Who is suffering? Common people suffering, all right? Everything costs much more simply because transportation costs much more. So I was in UAE just this last week, I was talking to responsible people there who are in charge of OPEC oil production, and they were saying, Sadhguru, there's been no investment. You can't just turn a switch. When you want oil, we can't just produce just like that. It's a process which takes a certain amount of time. So if there are no necessary investments, simply because some angry activists are shouting at it and you stop the investments, then when you want it, it won't come. And they're saying, what's my problem? You're paying the price of 2 barrels for 1 barrel. What is my problem? I have no problem. Anyway, you will have to buy. But people are suffering. I am concerned that in your country also people are suffering because of the oil prices. Everybody in the world is suffering because of oil prices. Well, it has to be below a certain level, means there must be some production. At some production means there must be certain amount of investment. So, this just angry against somebody must go. The reason why things have not happened is activists are always trying to pick an enemy. There is no enemy other than ourselves. Every one of us are consuming this. As you sit there in the hall, as I sit here, these lights, this air conditioning and this everything is costing, isn't it? It is burning something somewhere. So we need to understand that this fight is not against somebody. This fight is against our own ignorance, our own irresponsible behavior, our own unconscious and compulsive behaviors that all of us as human beings have done. If I think you are the culprit and I want to see, it's always easy to create an enemy and create a movement. This is what is unique about the Green Hands movement, the Kaveri calling and the Rally for Rivers and now the Conscious Planet. It is not against anybody, there is no enemy. I want everybody to understand, we are the enemy. There is no other external enemy. It's not the oil industry, it is not the cars, it is not this, it is not that. It is we have not spoken, we have not taken responsibility. As we call ourselves democratic nations, we must understand government means it's our participation which makes the government happen. Well, democracy may not be all that alive and it may not be happening and you may feel helpless, but that's not the point. The point is, in a democratic country, we cannot say somebody who's been elected is responsible. We are responsible because unless we demand, that will not happen. Demand doesn't mean you have to go and fight with somebody, you can express it. Right now, this is what Conscious Planet movement is about. We want to… See, there are 5.26 billion people on the planet who have franchise. I see so many young men and women sitting there in this conference, maybe all your students from your university. I want I want all of you to understand, you're among that 5.26 billion people who have the power to elect a government. It's not a small thing, it's invested in you. So we want to move over three billion people, and we are in some kind of arrangement with the Facebook and various other institutions to see that we gather 3 billion people saying we are concerned about soil. Then let me see which government will ignore it. No government can ignore it. We were talking about water, one point we missed is, I think everybody's understanding of water is, they want to see water in the rivers, they want to see water in the lakes and in the wells. No, that's not where water should be. Water should be in the soil. Soil is capable of holding 800% more water than all the rivers on the planet put together. That's where it should be. As the organic content in the soil goes down, its ability to hold water is gone. As you run machines on your, on your soil or on your lands, the compression takes away the basic structure of the soil and its ability to hold water is gone. Water should be in the soil, not somewhere else. If it's in the soil, I'm telling you, you can eliminate half the irrigation process in the world. If you build enough humus in the soil, you don't need any irrigation. I have personally done farming like this without any irrigation, grown good crops simply by creating 6 to 9 inches of humus. It's just that you have to grow that humus somewhere, either in the form of a plant or animal waste. Somehow you have to generate this. Everybody is talking about technologies. I've been going around speaking in California. Whatever you try to tell them, they say, we have invented a new app as a solution. See, your technology may find better application processes, but there is no technology to develop organic content. It's only animal waste and vegetable waste or vegetation which can give you organic content. There is simply no other way. There is no technology. Let me tell you this on a lighter vein. This happened in 2050. In 2050, a few scientists, not you, a few scientists in the world sought an appointment with God. And they got the appointment and they went there, and then they told God, hey, old man, you've done pretty well with creation, but it's time you retire because everything that you can do, we can also do in our labs. God said, oh, is that so? What can you do? So they dug up some soil and made the form of a child and they did all kinds of things and the child came alive in a few minutes. God said, well, that's very impressive, but first get your own soil. There is no substitute.
Yeah, thank you, Sadhguruji. In continuation to that, waste management, whatever you are advocating, water management, everything, in countries like India, lot of indigenous technology or the traditional wisdom exists. We have been doing this, our farmers, for several thousands of years. So how do you see the convergence of our indigenous technical knowledge or the traditional wisdom, modern technology, and now we are talking about the data sciences in countries like India, in the development process?
See, there are in some parts of the Indian subcontinent, particularly in southern India, there is a history of over 8 to 12,000 years of agriculture, probably the oldest in the world. Except a few places in southern America, nowhere else on the planet, agriculture has been registered as an organized process over 10,000 years ago, but it's happened in southern India. But for these 10,000–12,000 years, our farmers have been managing the richness of the soil and farming on the same land. But in the last 40 years, we have completely ripped it off. This is our idea of science, unfortunately. Science should be enriching, not destructive. So there is nothing wrong with science. Science is only exploring. It is just the hands which employ science. See, for example, the cutting-edge science is always going into weapon making on the planet. The military machines get the first access to all the cutting-edge scientific developments. So this doesn't mean there's something wrong with science or scientists, it is just the application. Application is not in the hands of scientists, it's in the hands of policymakers. Policymakers will only listen to the numbers of people speaking. So because numbers are the only currency in a democratic process. So, about traditional wisdom, well, we knew everything. Today, whatever you're talking about organic farming, this, that, this is the way we've always lived. But one thing we have to acknowledge is, there was no such pressure, population pressure on the land. Today there's an extraordinary population pressure on the land. How do we fulfill this? Right now, looking at the predictions of, food shortages in 2040 plus, beyond that, there are a lot of food shortages being predicted. So some of the global agencies are gearing up to really popularize genetic engineering and stuff like that. So that could solve the problem for a few years, but after that the kind of problem we arrive at will not be solvable easily. So right now, the problem that we are of soil degradation is a consequence of the Green Revolution. Are we against the Green Revolution? Not at all, because it fed the people for 40–50 years. Without that, there would still be famines, there would be still malnourishment, there would still be a lot of people dying without food. So we did solve one problem and create a bigger problem. Now if we go into genetic engineering as a solution, we will solve a problem for a period of time and then arrive at a problem for which we may not have solutions. Everybody knows that if genetically engineered crops grow at a certain rate and produce food for now, tomorrow's problems will be, we have no scientific solution for it, no any kind of solution for it. People think anyway we'll come up with some solution. This is not the way to go, because you need to understand, no matter how much human intelligence grows, we are still a consequence of the organic process on the planet. Our very existence is an organic process till you become completely silicon-based, a human being. Till then, as long as you're a carbon-based organic process of being born as a human being in your mother's womb, as long as that is true, we need to understand the organic process in the soil is the most important thing happening on this planet right now. What is happening in your lab is not the most important thing. You are going to Mars, that is not the most important thing. I am not saying they're not important, they are all of consequence. But the most important thing that's happening right now is soil is alive. Because soil is alive, plants are alive. Because plants are alive, animals are alive. Because animals are alive, you and me are alive. So the whole life process has a significance because we are still an organic consequence of the soil richness. So destroying that and trying to find solutions is not really a solution. Traditionally, we have always known this, always known this. But today the situations are little different because the population pressure is like never before. So there are many things to look at. The solution is not unidirectional. This 3% soil organic content I'm talking about is just as a legacy that for the future generations we leave a living soil, maybe they will be more sensible and wise than us and manage it better for the future. I just saw yesterday the news that in India, the population rate of growth is dropping to a point where it is not even at the replacement levels. Oh, this is good news, all right? Because we may think there are many problems, but there is only one problem. We are wonderful, as human beings we are wonderful, but we are just too many, we need to understand this. For the land that is there, for the resource that is there, we are a bit too many. In the beginning of 20th century, we were 1.6 billion people. Today we're inching towards 8 billion people. By 2050, we are talking about 10 billion people. Oh, when there are 10 billion people on this planet, well, I don't wish to be around because that's not going to be a pleasant life for anybody. So this is the world we are creating for our children. This is something that all of us should sit up and look at. So this is why I said I will institute an award for all those young women, consciously they choose not to have children. Because this whole biological madness that you think your life is not fulfilled unless you biologically do something is a very simplistic and animalistic idea. Human consciousness is capable of being well beyond that, well beyond that. Human fulfillment doesn't happen with reproduction. Human fulfillment happens because you consciously, you get to something within yourself, not because you reproduce. You can have 10 children and still be crazy. You can have 10 children and still be unfulfilled, all right? You know Dhritarashtra, he had 100 children and lived a miserable life.
Yeah, yes, Sadhguruji, but then the onus is just not on the woman. It is a decision that has to be taken by both. So I think, as you said, it is a choice.
No, I don't say the onus is just on the woman, but woman can put her foot down because a man cannot produce a child by himself, fortunately.
Actually, speaking of women, this will be the last question. In fact, I might be overshooting the time that we have been given, but it's a question that's very close to my heart. As you
Now that you're going in this direction, now it's scaring me. Maybe because I said I'm a worm, you may put me under a microscope.
you won't do that, but the only thing is, sir, as you know, the recent Padma Shri Awards of 2021, when you see many women who were awarded. And that too, you know, I've seen three women that one is Papamal from Tamil Nadu for organic farming, then there's Tulsi Gowda from Karnataka for planting 30,000 saplings, and there's Rahibai Soma from Maharashtra who's called the seed mother. So these are all great examples. They are the old generation who are doing very good work, trying to preserve the nature, as you call, for the future generations. How do you see the women as change makers of the future? This is my last question.
This is a fantastic recognition for these ladies because they have done heartbreaking work all their life without any recognition, probably even from their own families or the communities in which they live. Maybe some of them are recognized, but a whole lot of them have been there, men or women, that is the condition, unfortunately. It's really fantastic that today they are being invited for Padma Awards. I think I bow down to that decision, whoever made that decision. I know all of us are involved, I am also part of it, voting for these things. So, it's really fantastic that such a thing is happening, that Tulsi Gowda walking into the Rashtrapati Bhavan is brings tears to anybody, because how many such women I have seen all across the country doing, daunting work, really back-breaking work on a daily basis without an iota of recognition of any kind. So, this is not one woman. She represents millions of women like that who have simply toiled on the land, doing things that they're doing. It's great that one woman is being recognized, but many millions and millions I have seen in my living experience, many of them. So what is the woman's role in India's agriculture? Well, she had a very, very active role because this whole thing about male-woman, male-female dominance, who has to dominate, who has to lead, this is all… Initially it started in the Western countries where there was severe disparities, but you need to understand, in a country like United States till late 60s, I think, women didn't have a vote. That means you're not really human, okay? Or you don't have the brains to vote. There was no such debate, even in 1950 when we became a republic, well before Western nations. In India, there was no such debate because our society existed in a certain way. Today, in the modern world, in the urban context, this may be an issue. But in the rural context, it's not been that way because of economic hardship. Whoever is little more powerful may be grabbing more. Otherwise, I have lived in farming communities all my life. There is no such thing as who is a man, who is a woman. Everybody does what they can do, and man will do the, more muscular hard work like plowing and digging and this and that, but everything else, planting, transplanting, weeding, most important aspects of harvesting, everything is done by the women. So there has never been a question of her significance in tending to the land. And a woman's hand being off the agricultural land, because a machine is like a man, all right? A man is a machine, and machine is more masculine in nature. The more machines you bring, I think that more sense of earth and soil being your mother is going away. I think it's very, very important that the women in the country, women in the world, particularly in India, because there is such a strong relationship between India's agriculture and women. You see any image you see anywhere. This is a living experience for me because at one time, without any purpose, I have traveled, crisscrossed India on my motorcycle, seeing agriculture, seeing villages in so many ways. Wherever you see, most of the year on the agricultural field, the person who is there is a woman, either plucking weeds or transplanting rice or doing this or doing that. It's mostly women in your imagery. If you have traveled around, you will see on the agricultural land, except for ploughing and hard work, physically hard work, rest of the work is always done by her. The tending to the land was done by her. So this is very important because why I am focusing on agricultural land as a solution for world's climate issues is, people can talk about the ocean, it is true, it needs to be tended to. People can talk about rainforests, yes, it is true, it needs to be tended to. People can talk about deserts, but agricultural land is the only place where every day men and women are tending to the land. Where you're tending to the land, if you can't fix it, how are you going to fix the oceans, the deserts, the rainforests, how are you going to fix it? The most important thing is, this is a land where every day you are on it, tending to it. If you cannot fix that, you are definitely not going to fix the ocean or the desert or the rainforest.
I thank you very much, Guruji, for your presence.
I wish to thank you for having me in this conference without any scientific qualification, thank you very much. And above all, Swami Reddy Garu and yourself, ma, you and I don't know who else is there in the audience. We need your support for the Conscious Planet movement because we need scientific voices to speak. I will send somebody to ask the prominent scientists there to record a 60 to 90-second videos on your impressions of soil, what needs to happen or whatever, and we want you to use a few keywords so that it gets picked up on the social media, because from 21st of March, for next 100 days, we want the whole world to talk about soil. Please, you as a university, please take this up. I will send somebody to speak to you and see how to make this happen.
Sure, sir.
Because we want the soil to buzz for 100 days. The world should speak about soil from March 21st of 2022. I will be on the road on a motorcycle, lone motorcycle. I'm 65 years of age. I hope I survive the 30,000 kilometer ride.
Definitely, sir. You inspire many of our youngsters here. I hope they also join you. Sir, before you leave, I would like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Pravin Rao Garu, and the President of Indian Society of Agronomy, who actually facilitated this program with you.
I would like to beg your pardon to all the eminent scientists who are there. If for the forcefulness with which I am speaking this forcefully not because I am more knowledgeable than you, simply because I feel it's urgent. If it's not spoken strongly, it's not getting across.
Sadhguruji, as a token of respect and gratitude for your presence here with us, we would like to honor you with a small memento from the Professor Jayashankar, Telangana State Agriculture University. We will be handing it over.
Thank you very much.
These are actually, sir, we have a natural dye unit in our university, which the students of College of Community Science, they actually produce the natural dyes, and these are products from the same. So I hope there will be a very nice gifts for you, so you can keep it in place of importance there. On behalf of the Indian Society of Agronomy, sir, I request Dr. V.K. Singh, sir, and Dr. Pravin Rao Garu to kindly honor Guruji with a kanduva, as we call it, and a gamcha, I think it's called.
I am still using only Pandur Kaddarma from Andhra Pradesh.
Please give a standing ovation to Sadhguruji.
Ovation is not the thing, all of you should stand up for Conscious Planet movement. I want all of you to make this a big movement in the world. This is not about me, this is not about you, This is a generational responsibility that we must fulfill. And we are working with various governments, we will achieve this. It's just that those 100 days, you must make sure everybody speaks about soil on the planet. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guruji, thank you.